I woke up early in the morning, stepped outside with a cup of coffee, and froze. There was a massive pile of garbage on my perfectly manicured lawn, old bags, rotting food scraps, and broken furniture, as if someone had gone out of their way to turn my yard into a dump. When I checked the security footage, I saw my neighbors doing it, with smug grins on their faces, like it was their personal victory. But what happened next turned the whole situation upside down, and trust me, they regretted it more than they could have ever imagined. But let's start from the very beginning. My name is Jake Harris, and I've always considered myself a patient neighbor. You know, the kind of person who shrugs off minor inconveniences and thinks, well, they're just neighbors, not worth stressing over. I moved to this Denver suburb with one simple dream: peace, comfort, a lush green lawn, and maybe a friendly hello in the mornings from neighbors who didn't view me as their personal nemesis. The first few weeks were exactly as I'd imagined. Quiet evenings, fresh air, and that feeling that life had finally settled into the right groove. And honestly, if things had stayed that way, I'd probably be telling you a story about how beautifully my roses bloom. But no. Meet Linda and Todd McGregor, my lovely neighbors. They're the type of people who genuinely believe their last name is etched in bold letters somewhere in the sky, marking them as the unofficial rulers of the entire neighborhood. These two threw parties like their house was a private nightclub, minus the license and common sense. Their cars? Parked wherever they pleased, walking down the sidewalk. Sure, if you enjoy dodging bumpers like it's an obstacle course. Oh, and they had a dog, a charming Labrador who apparently believed my lawn was the neighborhood's designated restroom. Guess who never cleaned up after him? I tolerated it. Honestly, I did, until one day when I politely, without a hint of aggression, asked them to move their car, which was once again blocking my driveway. "Hey Todd, would you mind parking just a little further down? It's tough for me to get out," I said with my most polite smile. I thought it was a normal conversation, but as it turned out, that was my mistake. A big one. Because a couple of days later, I woke up, stepped outside with my morning coffee, and froze. My brain needed a few seconds to process what I was seeing. My perfectly trimmed, vibrant green lawn, the one I'd cared for with pride and love, was buried under a mountain of trash. And not just a couple of bags. No. This was a full-on mini landfill. Old black garbage bags spilling out filthy scraps of cardboard, broken plastic chairs with chipped paint, random rusty metal bits, and, just to top it off, rotting food that had already begun releasing aromatic notes under the morning sun. It was like someone had gathered all the garbage from the entire neighborhood and thought, hey, why not gift this to Jake? I stood there on my porch, holding my now cooling coffee, staring at this silent insult to my sanity. One thought kept circling in my head. What the hell happened here? And then it hit me. Of course, Todd and Linda. Who else could have done this with such deliberate precision? Little did I know, this was just the beginning, the start of a real war, where the weapons would be garbage bags, hidden cameras, and the law. I knew exactly whose handiwork this was. Not that it took Sherlock Holmes-level deduction. I mean, the puzzle came together faster than my morning coffee could boil. Still, just to eliminate any lingering doubt, I decided to check the security camera footage I had around my house. And there it was, clear as day. Like a scene from a bad comedy sketch, Todd McGregor appeared on the screen. He was slowly unloading garbage bags from his beat-up truck with the air of someone performing some sacred ritual. He wasn't just tossing the bags carelessly. Oh no, he was arranging them, as if creating some kind of twisted art installation. That smug grin on his face? The kind of grin people wear when they think they've just won a petty little game. And Linda? She stood beside him, arms crossed, chuckling like they'd just pulled off the greatest prank in the history of their glorious neighborhood. Anger bubbled inside me like an overheated kettle, but honestly, it was the humiliation that stung more. I didn't just feel like a victim. I felt cornered, like they were trying to show me I was insignificant and powerless. I cleaned up the mess, but with every shovel full of garbage, one question echoed in my mind. Why the hell should I put up with this? I never asked for a conflict. I just wanted to live in peace. But they didn't stop there. No, this was just the dress rehearsal. A few days later, I woke up to a fresh delivery, this time featuring broken glass bottles and rotting fruit. Apparently, they decided to add some artistic flair to their masterpiece. It became a regular ritual. Every week, new surprises, old tires, busted furniture, fast food wrappers. They dumped their trash with such dedication it felt like part of their weekly schedule. Tuesday, yoga. Friday, trash Jake's lawn. I couldn't just sit back and take it. I went to the HOA, hoping someone there still had a shred of common sense. I laid out the situation, showed them the video evidence. You'd think that would solve the problem instantly. But instead of taking action, the HOA president, Mr. Burrows, just sighed and shrugged. The McGregors have always been valuable members of our community, he said with the kind of solemn expression you'd reserve for quoting sacred scripture. I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? When you're picking up piles of trash from your own yard every morning, that's not a misunderstanding. That's war. And you know what? That phrase poured gasoline on the fire. Now I wasn't just mad at the McGregors. I was furious with everyone who turned a blind eye. The injustice was unbearable. They wanted to break me, to make me feel trapped. But instead, they made one fatal mistake. They pissed me off like no one ever had before. And I decided, from now on, this game would be played by my rules. My patience snapped. You know that feeling when everything inside you is boiling, but you keep holding it together, hoping for common sense to prevail. And then you realize, enough. That's it. That's when the real game begins. I understood one simple thing. If I wanted justice, I had to act decisively, with no hint of politeness or compromise. First, I gathered all the surveillance footage showing their artistic installations on my lawn. But I didn't stop there. If they thought I'd just shrug it off, they were dead wrong. I installed additional hidden cameras, tiny, nearly invisible ones tucked inside garden lights and decorative fixtures. These cameras became my eyes, capturing every petty stunt they pulled. And that's when things got interesting. I recorded not only their ongoing trash campaigns, but also Todd regularly parking right on my lawn, leaving deep tire tracks as if he was trying to autograph my property. But the cherry on top? A video of Todd, surrounded by his friends at a party, loudly bragging, "Let's see how that crybaby handles our surprise on his lawn." He laughed. His friends laughed. I didn't. I compiled all the evidence neatly and took it to a lawyer. A civil litigation specialist watched the footage and let out a low whistle. Well, we've got a solid case here. Property damage, harassment, emotional distress, a whole bouquet. We filed a lawsuit. Then came the big day. The courtroom was packed. The McGregors, confident in their untouchable arrogance, sat there like they'd been dragged in by mistake. Todd acted like this was some trivial misunderstanding, while Linda crossed her arms, feigning indifference. But as the judge started reviewing the footage, their smug expressions began to change, clip after clip, like a movie, only with real-life villains. There was Todd dumping trash, Linda laughing, and finally that party moment where he proudly boasted about his heroic prank. The room fell silent. The judge struggled to suppress a smile. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Apparently even he found it hard to stay serious while witnessing such blatant, juvenile behavior. The verdict? The McGregor family is ordered to pay a fine for property damage, compensate for emotional distress, and—" The judge paused, peering over his glasses. "Issue a public apology to Mr. Harris for their actions." And in that moment, I felt exactly what I'd fought for: justice. Real, tangible, and, if I'm being honest, deliciously satisfying. The day of the public apology felt like a local holiday in our quiet suburb. People came out of their houses, pretending they were just out for a casual stroll, but curiosity was written all over their faces. Someone even brought foldable chairs, like they were at a parade. Kids giggled, and the elderly neighbors, usually grumpy about everything, looked surprisingly pleased. The air itself seemed charged with anticipation. And there they were, the stars of the show, Todd and Linda McGregor, standing on my perfectly manicured lawn, which now gleamed with vibrant green, as if it too was celebrating its victory. In their hands, a giant sign with the words I'd carefully chosen for maximum effect. "We apologize for disrespecting our neighbors and damaging their property." Words they'd never utter voluntarily, now screaming to the world about their accomplishments. Linda looked like she was on the verge of tears, which, honestly, added a special charm to the moment. Todd stood there, gritting his teeth, his face a mix of rage and humiliation. Gone was his usual smug grin. Now the entire neighborhood saw him for who he really was. I stood across from them, arms crossed, watching the scene with a light, almost innocent smile. No need for grand speeches or dramatic gestures. The facts spoke for themselves. After that, everything changed. The McGregors' evenings became astonishingly quiet. Their cars never blocked my driveway again. Linda even started saying hello, though her voice sounded like each hi caused her physical pain. Todd avoided eye contact altogether, but whenever our eyes did meet by chance, I no longer saw the old disdain. Instead, I saw something different. The recognition of defeat. And my lawn? It remained untouched, standing as a symbol that boundaries deserve respect. Not just physical ones, but human ones too. And you know what? It felt incredible. Not just because of the court victory or the sign on my lawn, but because of that sweet, quiet feeling when justice prevails, and you know deep down, you didn't cave, you didn't back down, you won. And that feeling doesn't need applause. It lives inside you, like the soft echo of each step on perfectly even grass.